Hello, everybody. Welcome back, and I hope that you're having a great week. So this week, we are getting into our final method of conducting qualitative analysis, looking at participant observation. So I want to talk a little bit about that and a few housekeeping updates related to the course at this stage. First of all, your qualitative proposal is due this Sunday. I want to take some time to talk a little bit about that and some of the expectations there. And then we'll get into some of the specifics about conducting participant observation. Also, if you turned in an updated version of your textual proposal, I'll have your updated grade and updated feedback on that by the end of the week. Thank you for taking the time to do that. And if you have any questions going into your qualitative proposal, please let me know. So the qualitative research proposal is due this Sunday. So rather than using a textual method, I'm asking you to use one of the qualitative methods that we've talked about so far in the course, such as interviews, historical, ethnomethodological, and as we'll be talking about today, participant observation. So pick one of those four and propose a possible project that you might develop that utilizes one of these types of qualitative analysis. So like before, I'm asking you to include an introduction that sets up and explains the topic or issue that you aim to explore, a literature review that goes over previous scholarly work that has discussed or used your topic or similar topics, and then a proposed research design. Since for the qualitative projects in particular, you will need to go through IRB if you intend to actually do the project. This is a chance for you to develop a set of interview questions to explain how you might go about conducting a possible study. So rather than actually going out and doing interviews, you have the resources that you would need were you to go out and do that as a final project. So in other words, you're not conducting an actual qualitative study yet. You're just proposing this. And you're creating the materials that you would need to develop that as a final project. I encourage you to take a look at the steps involved in the method of qualitative analysis. For example, this week, Berger gets into some major detail about the process of conducting participant observation. And ask yourself, how would you go through the steps? And explain how you would go through those steps in your proposal. For example, if you were doing an interview, there's the process of recruiting, there's the process of developing the set of questions you would ask, there's the process of coding, analyzing the data, and the way that you would present the results of that study. So explain how you would go about that process of conducting a qualitative study for your proposal. And then the literature review is designed to go over relevant scholarly work that has talked about your topic or similar topics. My advice is to use Google Scholar, JSTOR, and similar databases through the EOU library to use keywords related to your topic or similar to your topic to find relevant sources that have discussed and brought in context for your current work. And then the qualitative proposal that you develop, one option that you could choose is to develop this into your final project of the course. So if this is an interesting project for you and you want to take this material you've put together and actually conduct a study between now and the end of the term, I'm happy to work with you through that process, including the process of navigating IRB so that you would have approval in order to do that. So let me know if you're interested in the qualitative route for a final project. So let's go ahead and get into participant observation. So participant observation is our last qualitative method, and it's a bit similar to ethnomethodology, but it differs in terms of you as a researcher really trying to understand the communication and engagement as it happens. So understanding a culture, a group, a population, through engaging in that group as a member. As kind of an honorary or current member of that group, and trying to better understand how that group communicates and works. This is useful because it allows us to understand communication as it happens naturally. We visit a population, if we're visiting an organization, right, we are seeing what it does day to day, not what they have prepared as a response to an interview question. In other words, we get to understand the underlying beliefs, assumptions, and the artifacts and points used by a culture or group to understand how that group behaves while still playing the role of a researcher who is to some extent detached and trying to study and analyze this population in question. So when it comes to conducting participant observations, you can take on one of two roles here. Either you can be a participant as observer, which means that you are an insider or member of the group who is understanding and kind of sharing the process of that group's behavior. For example, if you're a part of a club, a culture, or an organization, you are engaging in that process of reflection with that group that you're a part of. And then if you're an observer as participant, you're an outsider who's given the chance to go in and kind of join the group as an honorary member to observe and note the behavior of that group. So even if you're already a member or you're coming in from the outside, your goal is to be objective, to avoid being too ingrained in the culture or beliefs that you're not able to take a step back and understand it as a researcher. So understanding how to maintain that level of professional distance is crucial as you're developing this kind of project. So when it comes to participant observation, right, what you need to be asking yourself is the 5 W's and H, right? Who, what, when, where, why, and how. So who are you studying? Why are you studying that population? Who's involved? What are you studying? What are the pieces of communication that this group is using? When is this taking place? How does time, context, time of day shape the communication that's happening? Where? So space and place significantly shape the communication that's happening, including the modality that a group or organization is using. And why and how is this communication happening? How are people communicating with each other? What do you see as the reason behind the method of communication that members of the group use? So these are crucial questions to ask as you study and understand a culture and its set of beliefs. When we think about participant observation, there's a few concerns and issues that we have to think about. First of all, setting, right? The location matters. Where is this happening? Where are the groups communicating, and how does the involvement in space, like it's a hot day, you're inside a building, you're outside, how does this shape the communication that's occurring in the group? Who are you studying and why? Why have you chosen the participants or population that you have? What is the kind of group that you're studying? What are the dynamics, the power relationships that are happening in this group? What are people doing? How are they behaving? Maybe you're sitting in on a meeting of an organization. Why is that organization structured the way it is? How and how often are people doing things, considering frequency and duration of a group, culture, and its methods of meeting? It's also important to consider how you as a researcher are recording, taking notes, or engaging with the group members yourself. So recognizing that, having a camera, having a stage, taking notes, that is going to some degree, influence the engagement and participation of people in the group is an important consideration. How are you influencing the group via your participation in that group? So some of the problems of conducting effective participation observation include the following. First of all is focus. You are going to learn a lot over the course of observing a group behave and communicate. So you need to get narrow enough so that you're looking at the key findings and observations from that observation that you intend to use in your broader project. You will impact and affect the group through your participation. Again, if you think about it like a camera crew, like for a documentary, like The Office, right? That plays a role in influence in how members behave if they know that they're being recorded and they're on stage. It's also important to consider unrecognized selectivity. What are you in the process of taking notes and observing, choosing to include and choosing to hide? What are you not including in your report? You have to avoid mind reading and assuming behavioral intent when you don't have access. So I think that this person said this because of why. You want to be careful not to make assumptions that you can't substantiate about human behavior and motivation. And then lastly, consider the validity. Are the findings that you have developed accurate? One way, again, of doing this is of doing a member check, going back to members of the group and assessing if the information that you recorded is accurate to their own experiences. And when it comes to presenting and finalizing the results of participant observation, it's important to consider ethics, right? So again, the Stanford prison experiment was a prominent case in which the ethics were thrown out the window in terms of conducting a study where people were assigned inmates or prisoners. And through that process, it was unethical. Many of the people in the study had major psychological damage. The study, of course, led to the development of the IRB and ethical standards of research. So you want to make sure when you are doing a participant observation study to avoid deception, right? Don't be dishonest about your intentions behind your study. Don't use people as means to an end. One way of thinking about this is, does my study benefit the people that I am studying? If so, then try to understand why and how you might benefit. Avoid potential negative impacts on people. This is why we anonymize and make sure that our information is kept confidential in conducting human subjects research, and being honest about what this research is being used for as you're engaging with the population, and sharing your findings is also a really important step in the process. Again, observing a population, culture, a group, an organization has a lot of ethical challenges. So that's part of why developing an IRP is crucial in order to engage with that population effectively. So to wrap up the key ideas here, getting at participant observation, as you prepare for your qualitative proposal due on Sunday, you're welcome to send me drafts, outlines, questions, anything else, and I'm happy to address any concerns or questions that you have. We talked a bit about participant observation, engaging with the lived experiences of the people that you're studying, right? Observing and noting their day-to-day activities, and some of the challenges and ethical problems that can happen in conducting participant observation. My advice, if you choose this as a project, is to think about a population or group that you would be able to reach, that would consent to your participation, and that you feel like would have some rich notes and observation that you could use to understand how they engage in communication. So if this is interesting to you, I'm happy to discuss further. Next week, we are shifting it from qualitative to quantitative. So we'll be getting at content analyses and surveys in looking at how people engage in quantitative data-driven research. So have a great rest of your week, and let me know if you have any questions as you're working on your qualitative proposal. And I look forward to talking with you again next week as we get into quantitative methods.